Hi, so this video is going to be an example lesson for young learners, and this lesson is a listening lesson and it's also a storytelling lesson. So as I mentioned, this is for young learners. It's more for kindergarten age than elementary age, but perhaps it could be adapted to make it suitable for elementary students. Of course, the level is beginner because they're so young. And this is a storytelling lesson following the PDP framework. So this framework is for teaching listening and reading comprehension. We'll do a quick review of that in a moment as well. For this lesson, I'm going to use the story Brown Bear, which is a very popular, famous story. It's good to use popular stories because there's lots of resources online that you can take a look at as well. I mentioned the skill for PDP framework is listening, and it's listening comprehension. And in this lesson, some of the language involved includes colours and animals, and some of the expressions that we're going to listen to is what can you see and I see a da da da. Okay, so that's the details about the lesson. Let's take a quick review of the PDP framework. So the PDP framework is a way of organising listening and reading lessons. The acronym stands for pre, during and post. So there are these three parts of the lesson. Let's look at the pre-stage. So this is before listening and reading. So this is where you are setting up students and scaffolding and preparing them and helping them to be ready for the skills stage of the lesson. So here you can do things like generate interest, activate schema, assess background knowledge, and pre-teach key vocabulary. Okay, so especially for younger or lower level students, pre-teaching or reviewing vocabulary is really important. Okay, so the pre-stage you might have like 2 or 3 steps, maybe more, with a few activities just to prepare them for the skills focus. Okay, then you've got the during stage. So the during stage, here is the listening comprehension or the reading comprehension. So here you might have several activities, and you might, this stage is the main stage, which is why it's the middle of the diamond shape. And in this stage, you're focusing on checking their comprehension. Okay, so you might be doing various different things in this stage. So for the during stage, these are the tasks while listening and or reading. The suggestion here is multiple exposures. Okay, so don't just listen one time, listen multiple times or read multiple times. Give them many opportunities to be exposed to the text. Have varied tasks, so different types of tasks. For example, with images, with words, with critical thinking, with linguistic focus or a grammar focus, and you can also vary the skills. Okay, now of course listening or reading would be your main skill, but each of those has micro skills, things like listening for gist or listening for details or inferring. Yeah, so think about reading strategies is a good one there, things like predicting and so on. So the during stage should be sequenced well and scaffolded, starting from easy and general, moving towards comprehensive and also kind of detailed, very understanding all of the details. Okay, so as I mentioned, the during stage might have 3 or 4 or 5 different activities, each one checking listening or reading comprehension. Okay, so now when you've finished with the listening material, okay, you're moving on and you're not doing listening comprehension or reading comprehension, then you're in the post stage. The post stage is like extending or expanding or moving further with the topic or the language that you've set up in the pre and the during stage. So you can expand on the content, the theme or the topic in some way. You can connect or personalize the information further, and you can extend the language study. Okay, so you might choose some of the language, the grammar from the during and move into kind of a more grammar focused. You can also do, for young learners, a nice thing to do in the post stage is kind of creative, like making masks, drawing a poster or something like that on the general topic of the listening material. Okay, so that's a review of pre, during and post. Now, I just want to mention one thing before we continue. Obviously, this is an example lesson that I'm making a video with, so it's not exactly the same as it would be in the classroom. What I would suggest, if you're doing this in a real class, and if you're focusing on listening rather than storytelling, I would suggest find a good video on YouTube and use the video as your listening material. That's better because for a few reasons. Of course, it's good to listen to the teacher sometimes, and the teacher can be the kind of the audio for a listening lesson. But if you have a video, it exposes students to other accents. The video is the same each time. Okay, it's not slowed down or changed as the teacher might be reading the story. And also it allows the teacher to play the video and then watch and check the students. Okay, so yeah, if you're just doing this as a listening lesson, I would suggest do it with a video rather than the teacher reading the story. But if it's a storytelling lesson, then sure, have the teacher reading the story. Okay, so we're going to start this listening lesson for young learners, and this is the book that we're using, Brown Bear, What Do You See? Okay, so we're going to start with this image. And so I show this image to the young learners or something similar and ask, what can you see? Where is it? Okay, it's a zoo. Let's read the title together. Zoo. Zoo, everybody. Zoo, okay? Right, so what animals can you see in the zoo? What can you see in this picture? Yep, elephant, giraffe, lion. Good. What other animals do you know? Let's make a list on the whiteboard. Okay, so you brainstorm lots and lots of animals. Good thing about this is most young learners can name at least 10 animals in English. It seems to be something that they learn when they're young. A lot of the animal names are the same in their first language. For example, in Korean, penguin is the same. So yeah, young kids, get them shouting, make a big list, lots of language. That language can be used later on in the lesson. Okay, the point of this is to get interest, but also to activate background knowledge. Okay, so now we pull out a teddy bear. Okay, and again, this is for kind of getting attention and getting interest, and this is realia. Okay, so we have a toy teddy bear, and we ask the students, okay, who's this? What is it? What animal is it? Right. And what color is it? Right, it's a brown bear. So today we're going to read a story about a brown bear. Okay, so realia is a really nice thing for young learners. I suggest as much as possible, try to use objects and toys in your teaching. They're good for passing around, good for role plays, good for tactile learners, and good for getting attention as well, because as soon as you pull out something fun, all of the attention's going to get onto you. So yeah, definitely consider using as much realia as possible. Okay, so now before we read the story, I just want to check that you know colours. So can you get your crayons? All the young learners get their crayons, or if they don't have crayons, you can use anything similar. So I want to check that you know colours. Okay, so can you show me your green crayon? Green. Okay, so everybody's holds it up. Okay, blue and red and yellow and so on. Okay, so this is just to check colours. Probably they've learned colours in a previous lesson. If they don't have crayons, you can just use objects in the room or something like this. Okay, so listen and point with objects in the room. Again, use things around you as much as possible. There's lots of different things you can teach just using things that are in the classroom. Okay, so this is a game, popular game in English called I Spy. You may know this or you may not. And usually with this game, the way we play this game is we give the first letter of something that we can see in the room. So we give a letter like T, and students have to guess what we're thinking of, for example, table. Okay, but I've changed this game and simplified it a little bit, and we're going to do this game with colours. So I spy something that is green, and students have to point and guess and find all the green objects until they find the thing that I was thinking of. Okay, I spy something that's yellow, I spy something that's black, and so on. If the students are a little bit older and mature, kind of, you know, the last year of kindergarten, then maybe the students could also play this game as well. Okay, so that's the checking stage, checking that they know colours. Now, we're still in the pre-stage here, and we're going to pre-teach the vocabulary, okay? So it's really important, the animal vocabulary in this lesson is really important, so we're going to explicitly pre-teach the vocabulary using digital flashcards, okay? So what is this? It's a bear. Right, very good. It's a bear. A bear. What is it? A bird. Right, everybody repeat. A bird. Okay, what's this? A duck. Everybody repeat. A duck. A duck. Okay, so notice how these digital flashcards are designed. We start with the picture and try to elicit, find out if they already know the word, repeat the word a couple of times, and then reveal the written word at the bottom of the flashcard. Okay, so generally that's a nice way of designing. We've got the picture, what is it, elicit, and repeat a couple of times. A horse, yes, it's a horse, everybody. Repeat after me, and then we can reveal the word. Okay, generally that's a good design for making flashcards, digital flashcards. Okay, so we go through all the animals, a frog, a cat, and so on. Okay, so we've just learned about some new animals. Now I want to check. So this is, of course, this is a checking stage. In your lessons, you should be including checking steps, right? You teach and then check. Okay, so what animal is it? Let's see if you remember the animals. It's blue. What animal? A horse, right. It's purple. A cat. It's yellow. A duck. Well done. Okay, so notice this checking stage includes colours and animals. I'm saying the colours, but the students are saying the animals. Okay, so the students are saying a duck, a cat, and so on. That's because I'm checking that they know the animals. I've already checked that they know the colours. I've just taught the animals, so I want to check that they know the animals. So the way I designed this checking stage is to check that they know the animals. Okay, here's another idea for a game. This is quite a nice kind of game. Listen and clap when you hear the animal. Okay, you might need to do this a couple of times just to kind of help them to understand the concept of this, because young learners, you know, they're a bit excited and they'll just clap at anything, right? But yeah, if you can, you know, do this a few times and kind of train them what they have to do. Okay, so let me explain briefly. You say some words slowly, and students only clap when they hear an animal word. Okay, so let's practice. Cat. Very good. Dog. Good. Brown. Is it an animal? No, so we don't clap, okay? Yellow. No. Red. Frog. Okay, so you can do this game to check that they understand the meaning of the words. Now, this is a checking stage, but it's a lot more difficult than the previous one. I've taken away any visual scaffolding, and it's just checking their listening comprehension. Okay, let me show you this again just briefly. Okay, so I'm going to say some words, and when I hit, say, the animal word, can you clap? Okay, pencil, table, chair, ruler, bear. Okay, so that's how we play the game. Okay, I like this game because it's focused on the meaning of the words. So to clap when we hear the word, we need to know the meaning of the word. Also, it's listening. You don't need any materials for this also. And what else? Yeah, it's active, and it can be used for any vocabulary. So if you teach the students about this game, you know, you could do this game with weather or shapes or food or whatever. Okay, so yeah, this is quite a nice kind of checking, review, listening kind of game. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so are you ready for the story? We're going to listen to the story now. Now, as I mentioned, if this was a listening lesson, I would use a video. If it was a storytelling, I would actually be using the storybook. But because this is a video, I've got these digital slides. Okay, so brown bear, what do you see? Okay, so we're going to start with, I'm just going to check the volume. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to tell the story, and when you hear the animal sounds, I want you to guess what the animal is. Okay, what is it? Right, brown bear, what do you see? Okay, I hope you can hear the animal sounds. Okay, what's the next animal? It sounds like a bird. Well done. It's a red bird. I see a red bird looking at me. Okay, let's ask red bird, what do you see? I see a... Okay, what animal is it? You can give a hint as well. Okay, well done. If you guessed correctly, it's a yellow duck. I see a yellow duck looking at me. Yellow duck, what do you see? I see a... What animal is it? It's a horse. Right, what colour? A blue horse. I see a blue horse looking at me. Okay, blue horse, what do you see? I see a... What is it? Green frog looking at me. Green frog, what do you see? I see a... What is it? It's a purple cat. I see a purple cat looking at me. Okay, so you get the idea now. So you go through, I'll just turn that volume down. So you go through and you have the animal sounds, and the animal sounds help to predict. Students are going to predict the next sound, okay? You could use those animal sounds in the pre-stage as well for teaching and checking. Okay, so let's go through the story. So we've got the dog makes a dog sound, the sheep makes a sheep sound, and so on. Okay, if you're good at making animal sounds, you could do this yourself as a teacher, so that would save you the time to prepare all of the audio files. Okay, so goldfish, blop, blop, blop. And the last animal is children. Okay, I see children looking at me. Okay, so that's the story. Now, this is like a little checking stage. This could be in the pre-stage, but I've just put it in the during stage. I see a purple horse. Is it true? No. Okay, I see a purple cat. I see a red duck. Is it true? No, I see a red bird. Okay, so it's just a kind of like a checking that your students know the colours and the animals from the story. Okay. Okay, now this is a fun activity with young students, but I can't show you this really properly on the video. So let me try to explain. For this activity, I have some the flashcards for all of the animals, and each student gets an animal flashcard. So you pass the animal flashcards around, and you can check students know the flashcard that they have by doing listen and hold up. Okay, so you say like purple cat, and then you check purple cat, and red bird, and you check that the students know yellow duck, and you check that the students are holding the right cards. And what we're going to do, we're going to listen to the story again, and students should line up in the right order when they hear their animal. Okay, so brown bear, what do you see? And brown bear student first. I see a red bird, and the red bird student comes, and then through the story. So by the end of this activity, you've got all of the students lined up in the right order of the story. Now, if the students are a little bit higher level and kind of able now to retell the story, maybe with a bit of the teacher's help, you could actually retell the story as the students are standing with their animal flashcards. So essentially this is listen and line up activity. And just one little hint at the bottom here as well about materials. You can find storybook flashcards at kizclub.com/stories. Kiz Club is a really good website for young learner materials, and they have a stories section that has ready-made flashcards for very popular stories. So lots of popular books on there, like 5 Little Monkeys Jumping in a Tree, and some of the famous kind of monster books for stories as well. So yep, take a look at that. Okay, so that is listen and line up. Next we've got listen and sequence. Okay, so again, I can't really show you this properly, but I did bring the materials for this one to the office. So you give out these word cards, and students have to listen to the story and put the word cards in the right order. Okay. This activity is a bit more difficult because they have to read the word cards and listen very carefully to put them in the right order. And also you can do this in individually or in pairs, so that all students are responsible for reading and sequencing all of the words. Notice the previous activity, students were only responsible for listening and sequencing one of the animals, but this one they're going to be responsible for reading and sequencing all of the animal words. So it's a bit more difficult than the previous step, which is why I put it later in the during stage. Okay, so that's listen and sequence. Okay, there's one more thing as well here that you can do. I've just noticed I've numbered that wrong. That should be number 4 actually, listen and act. Okay, so this is a TPR activity, and of course actions are really good for young learners. And instead of trying to do this through the video here, I'm just going to show you a YouTube video so you can kind of see how it might work. Okay, so we're going to do Brown Bear song with actions. Of course, you could do this with storytelling as well. YouTube is a great place to look for popular songs, to learn actions that you can use in the classroom. Okay, so watch this video and notice how the students are responding and the actions that are being used.
Illustrated by Eric Scott.
Okay, so that was listen and act, and I just showed you a short clip of that video, but you can imagine how that would work in the classroom with young learners. Very exciting and active, get them all standing up and moving along. Now for TPR, what I suggest is what you do is first you play the song or the story and you teach the actions 1 or 2 times. And then you play the story again and see if the students can do the actions without the teacher's support. So remember that kind of scaffolding sequence that you want to think about for steps and especially for TPR. Okay, so TPR usually involves teaching actions first and then later just letting the students do the actions as a kind of checking step in the TPR. Okay, so that's listen and act in the during stage. There was actually more than 2 there. Okay. All right, so we've done various listening comprehension activities and we've checked their comprehension with pictures, with text, with actions, and we've checked their comprehension in various different ways. So this is a post activity. Now, as I mentioned, post is kind of moving away from your listening material, and it's taking some of the content or the topic or the language and taking it into something new. So the idea for this came from Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is actually really useful and relevant for PDP framework because it gives you a kind of sequence starting from kind of basic things, moving on to more advanced things like evaluation and creation. Okay, so the idea of this came from Bloom's taxonomy, and we're going to make a new story. So what I want you to do is choose a new animal and a color also, and we're going to make a new story with our own animals. For young learners, of course, they could draw the animals first if you have lots of time. So my animal is green koala. Okay, so when everybody's ready, everybody's chose their animal or drawn their picture. Let's start. Green koala, what do you see? I see a... Okay, so we go to the next animal, the next student. I see a yellow hippopotamus looking at me. Yellow hippopotamus, what do you see? I see a blue kangaroo. And we go round like this. Okay, so we create a new story with our own animals. I guess this is personalization as well. Yeah, and so this is kind of taking the language a bit further. Okay, one more thing I'll just mention before we finish, this concept of what do you see? Okay, so actually when I do this as a real storytelling lesson, I also do those actions. What do you see? Okay, so you might want to involve those actions in there as well. Okay, so I hope that was useful and it gave you some ideas about how to sequence a lesson for storytelling or for listening. And it's very helpful to think about the pre-stage, the during stage, and the post-stage. Okay, thank you very much.